Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And this is my podcast, Overthink Everything with Katya Karat. And today I'm making a new video and I'm going to be talking with you about books that have actually healed my soul and helped me a lot, and inspired me and uplifted me and just made me feel so much better than I was before I read them. So I've already done a video where I talked about the books that have actually ruined me and my mental health. And I think at least if you are a bookworm, or at least a person who reads a lot of books, they affect you 100%. Like me, when I read a book, or at least when I used to read books, now I don't read books because my brain doesn't work. But before, when I read books, I was completely and fully affected by whatever it is that I was reading. And then almost every single book was life-changing. It's I would read a book and I'm like, okay, I believe this shit. Okay, new part of life. Okay, so I've written down just some books that I think affected me the best way so far, and it's not as many of them as the books that ruined me. So think about the sum of it. But okay, let me just get straight into it. Which, by the way, these books, I wouldn't say it's something that a lot of people would call books that really healed me and saved me, because the things that heal me are just, I guess, weird. But guys, maybe it's gonna work for you. Maybe you're just like me. Okay, so the first book I have here, so I have all of them are nonfiction, by the way, so I don't have any fiction for you here that's gonna heal you, because I'm a nonfiction person. I'm going to start with something that makes sense, and that is a philosophy book. And that is probably the only philosophy book that I've read out of the classic literature philosophy books that is actually uplifting, even though it is real. It's not like toxic positivity. It's extremely real. It is Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. And here's the thing, guys. For me, these books are for the people who are still in their low state of mind and they're still thinking about the meaning of life every day, or something like that. They are in existential crisis and they need something that's actually going to help them. Because I feel if you're in that state of mind, reading it's just a funny book, or just a book written by a person in the normal state of mind is not going to work for you, because you're oh, you're stupid, right? But these books are not like that. They're I acknowledge your pain, and I'm going to explain to you why it's okay. So for me personally, if you had to ask me now, what is the meaning of life? Because I was on this quest for years before. I'm now what you might call what I believe in absurdism, basically. So this philosophy is what Albert Camus suggests in this book. And he's saying that basically existence is this sort of being on the tightrope between knowing that between wanting to know the meaning of life and not being able to do that, not being able to figure it out, no matter how hard you try, because you are just a part of the universe. You are just a creature. You're just a human being. And the universe cannot know itself that fully, because you are a part of it. So you can't know yourself to that extent. And he's also comparing a life and this entire state that we are in to this guy from the Greek mythology, who I think it was the guy who brought Prometheus, who brought fire to humans, and then God tortured him for that, as on being on this rock, on this rock and climbing with this big rock, and he has to push it up to the hill forever, and then once he does, it basically comes down back, and he has to do it again forever and ever, and it doesn't ever end. And if you've ever seen those memes, they're just the fucking dishes again, or whatever it is, the sort of mundane rituals that we have to do every single day, and it almost feels pointless, because if you do this every single day, what is the point, right? And what he says as what is the philosophy of absurdism is basically, so there's okay, this is very vague explanation, but there's nihilism, which is there is no meaning, right? And you just state that there is no meaning, and that's it, I guess. Then there's existentialism, which is also probably more positive than absurdism, because existentialism is there is a meaning, and the meaning is whatever you make it. Sort of the most vague explanation, and that is something that I think most people believe, because if you just ask an average person oh, what is the meaning of your life, they can be fuck you, I'm not gonna talk about that. Or they can tell you, well, whatever it is that you want it to be, right? Whatever you love, whatever it is. But I think that's kind of like a lame answer too. That is like just like trying to say whatever it is that you want to say. But in absurdism, he acknowledges that, well, we can't really know for sure what is the meaning. But he also says that it's not like a problem. He says that one might imagine Sisyphus happy because he says there is some sort of joy in the fact that you are alive, and there's intrinsic value in being a human instead of knowing what is the point of being a human. And another really good quote from that book is what is like the literal meaning of life, and that is whatever is preventing you from suicide. But actually, like, it works, because if you think about it, I feel like if you've ever been on this kind of like verge point of when you don't really know why do you exist at this point, like if you really could end your life tomorrow, what would actually, stop you from doing that? And whatever this is your literal meaning of life. And I feel like this is such a good answer too. And what I loved about that book is, for me, it's like a no bullshit book. It goes straight to the point. Like, when you are in an existential crisis, go read that book, because it's going to validate you, but it's also going to help you at least a little bit. I'm not going to tell you that like I completely fully agree with everything Albert said in that book, but I will tell you that there were a lot of good points, and it really gave me hope that I hadn't had for a long time as somebody who was like a nihilist or something for a long time. So go read that book. The next one I have is A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Now, this is because I feel like when you are in a sad state of mind, you can be a little bit of like, dark academia vibes. You can be like, oh, I'm into space. I was really into astrophysics and physics in general, because I was like, I don't want anything to do with people. People fucking irritate me. I hate them. Awful creatures. Stay away from me. You know what I mean? So what I was doing is that I'm going to go into space. Like, okay, I'm not going to go into space, but at least I might study the universe and like what is happening, like where does everything come from? Like, are there aliens? Like, things like this. And Stephen Hawking's book is an amazing kind of like big start into that. Yeah, something you can start with. It is just like a good, classical book, and it's really just like a basic fucking knowledge about physics, about the universe. It's like, what do you mean the time didn't exist before the universe? Like, what do you mean? Like, you can read that book and you will understand at least the basics of it. And for me, that just like every single time, for some reason, when I read that book, I just feel such awe and kind of like inspiration about the fact that I am alive in this universe, or the multiverse, who knows. But it's just like the fact that the life is so much bigger than what we see every day, because you might get so caught up and tired of just being who you are in your own little world, wherever you are, surrounded by people that you see every day, and you might forget that A, you live on a fucking huge planet. Okay, let's not forget about that one. And B, besides that, you live in a fucking galaxy. You live literally in the universe. Like, you understand there are like billions, trillions of things like this. And like, on the one hand, it's like terrifying, but on the other hand, it's like so amazing and beautiful. I don't know. I feel like a little bit I use that as an escape, but then also I think it gives you so much awe and inspiration for just like the fact that it's real. Like, it's all real. Like, it's not imaginary, and the universe is so beautiful and fantastic. And it's like, even if we are suffering as human beings on this planet, still, like, who knows what's out there? Who knows what's in the future? Who knows? Like, there's so many things we still don't know. And that just like gives you a little bit of kind of like grounding, paradoxically, because you were reading about the distant places that you will never see. But it's just, for me, that is so kind of like calming, because like, space is calming. It's so calming. Anyway, the next book I have here for you is another brief history, which is, I think a lot of people have read this book. It's very popular, as much as like A Brief History of Time. But this one is called A Brief History of Humankind. Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. And is like, I think one of the most like the bestsellers, book, nonfiction, whatever. But you guys, let me tell you, when you are in the state of mind where you're like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, this book will give you all the answers. She's gonna be like, literally, it's like, here's the thing, here's the tea. All the answers are right on this fucking page. I don't know, but for me, when I was reading that book, I really felt like I finally was understood by someone, and especially if you're like an angsty teenager or something, go read that book, because that book actually, like, it is about the economics and like anthropology and all that, but it just feels like an angsty teenager, because basically what Yuval says in that book is like, you know what, everything is made up. Like, everything is made up, and no rules are forever, and everything that the money system, the nation system, everything is just a system that humankind has created. And why the fuck is it the way it is? Well, now I'm going to give you the answer, but it really doesn't have to be, though. And so, I don't know, I think that book is extremely refreshing and extremely kind of like, it gives you space. It gives you space to think and understand that I feel like sometimes when you are in your deep trenches of deep pondering, okay, you might get into the corners of the thinking that you don't want to get into, when you were like on the verge of the existential crisis spiral, when you're like, I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. Like, I don't even understand my own language, right? When you read that book, it is so simple. It's simply written, and it's at the same time extremely beautiful. And the kind of analogies that the author comes up with when he's explaining different things that exist in our society are just so, like, they're so right. You read and you're like, yeah, like, that makes fucking sense. Especially, I recommend you the economics chapter. I recommend you the politics chapter. Like, they're so not controversial, but then also kind of extremely controversial, because he does not claim anything there. He's just kind of takes this complex systems that we have as a society and puts it into a 2+2. And you're like, oh, yeah, actually, maybe it is that simple. And I feel like when you are just lost in life or confused, and me, for example, like, I had questions about everything. I was like, I don't understand whatever the fuck is going on in the world. I don't understand what the fuck is going on. Anybody should please explain it to me. And no one does that. Do you? Like, I don't know. My parents, no. My school, no. Parents, no one does that. But that book does. That book explains shit to me. That book is like, here is the tea. That's what's actually going on. And I'm not going to tell you, like, this book actually, it doesn't give you any, like, answers, but then also just gives you a description, a really good description of what is going on. What do we do about that? There's no answer. I mean, actually, there's, like, a second chapter to this book, and then, like, 21st Lessons for the 21st Century. But I'll tell you, like, I feel like the Yuval is not that good with the answers, but he's really good with explanations. So, you guys, that's my rec for you. The next book I have is, okay, let's go into A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Now, this is a very, like, this book feels like, for me, when I was reading it, I was like, I feel like I'm in another universe right now. And I don't know why, but that's just because basically Virginia, she is like one of the first female authors. And in this book, she goes on to talk about the whole history of literature and why there are not so many female writers. And then she goes into the feminist movement and how the fact that at the point when she was writing, the ability of a woman to have her own room, just be in a room by yourself and have a right to do that and the money to do that, is actually the prerequisite to, writing anything of your own and becoming an author. And that is the premise of the book. But the way it's written and the way Virginia describes sort of like her search, because it's written in this like sort of like flow of consciousness way, which I love. And that is like, she's sitting in this library and she's like, oh, let me go to this library. And then she's like, wait, why are there only men here? And then she sits on this like little balcony and the light is beaming out from the window. And she's like, let me open this. I want to go and like read what people are writing about, why there are no female writers. And then she goes on into reading them out and like giving her own sort of very funny remarks on that and being like, you guys are hilarious. But besides being like a really good feminist read, this book, as I'm saying, like, it's just, for me, it felt like she was not in her time. it feels like, she was ahead of her time, and also she was like existing. She was just like so free from constraints of the world. And I feel like you've already seen that my main kind of like favorite books for uplifting and hope and positivity is when you forget about the fact that the rules exist. You forget about the fact that, fucking belief systems, the fucking, whatever it is that people think is right. The authors of these books are just like, it's almost like by default, they don't believe in any of that. They are not a part of this society. They're like, I'm not a part of it. And it's almost like, for me, it felt as if Virginia was like, you guys are so weird. I just realized you actually don't think women are like able to think and make conscious decisions. And she's not mad about it. She's not a mad feminist. She's not like, how could you? She's just like, you're so fucking funny for that. Like, you're so dumb. Like, she's so nice in this book, seriously. She's so nice because she's not mad. She's just like, that's funny. It feels like as if she's just like this extremely wise woman from like years and years ahead, and she went back into the past and she's opening this like old books, but it's literally the books of the people that live in her day and age. And she's like, that's so cute. You guys were completely wrong. Like, let me teach you right now what's the correct way to live. And I don't know, for me, that book just feels so refreshing and so cute. Like, it's so cute. And it's also, like, obviously uplifting in terms of, like, female ability, female creativity and everything. And it's just, I don't know, when I read the book and I was like, oh, that was written back then. Wow. I felt like I relate to her in some way. Anyway, the next book I have for you. Okay, so I have two more books which are a little bit more practical. And this is like when you've already figured out your fucking existential crisis. Now you have hope in yourself and you believe that, you know what, no matter the fucking rules of the society and whatever the prejudices that people have, I don't fucking care. I'm going to do my own thing anyway. But then give me some practice and like sort of like okay, what is the wisdom of the people that have already existed? Like, what is it that I can do in this world? And here I have two books for you. So the first one is Principles by Ray Dalio. Principles by Ray Dalio is a book that is basically like an autobiography, but then also sort of like a self-help, but then also like kind of like a economics book. So this guy, he was a founder of a hedge fund or an investor fund. Yeah, he's an investor in an investment fund. Actually, for some time I was like, I'm going to go and work in Ray Dalio's investment fund. True, anyway. But basically, he talks there about different like principles that he stands by in life. I don't necessarily agree with all the principles or necessarily advise you to like go and live by these principles, but it's very interesting to see how somebody kind of like started from scratch, because he shows how these principles didn't always exist in his brain. He basically like acquired them through life and experience and, doing different things. And then he was like, okay, well, maybe I should add this principle into my life. And that just really showed me how it is okay to kind of like fail and learn. For me, this book he basically tells his story as a person, as from a little kid to like being a finance person. And he also gives a lot of like economics lessons there and like basic things about investments and basic things about, how the economy works. But for me, the interesting part of that book was the fact that he really went from kind of like nobody to a somebody, and it didn't happen overnight, and it also didn't happen in a way that was like magical. It really was just trying different things and learning from your mistakes, and then trying again and failing again and trying again and failing again, and etc., etc. Like, it really shows you how it is okay to kind of like try and fail, and you still will succeed if you keep going. It's really that simple. So this is one thing, and this is why it's like such an uplifting message for me. But then also this book is very practical. He basically gives you like principles by which he lives, and like principles which you can also use, which are super basic self-help principles. But I also like the idea that he has basically the principles that he lives by, and I was thinking how maybe I should kind of like have the same thing. And he gives there, as a natural self-help book, a sort of like, you should create your own principles, and you should, analyze your life and try to understand, like, what is it that I want to live by. I don't know if it's necessarily the most important idea of the book, because I don't know, I feel like having principles that it can also be kind of like restraining. And as you can see, like, I'm all for freedom in all shape or form, but I also think that it can be beneficial if you only have very few principles, and they can help you in kind of like staggering moment of your life when you really don't know what you're doing. That is like also can be a very grounding thing. So especially when you're lost in your own brain and mind, you know what I mean? Okay, so and this is the book. And the last one I have on the list is the Almanack of Naval Ravikant by... Okay, so this is like, basically it's a book written by a journalist whose name is Eric Jorgensen, but it's based on the Twitter threads and some interviews that he held with Naval Ravikant. And Naval Ravikant is a creator of angel investment fund, like unicorn investment fund, basically another finance fund. And also he has a podcast, and he has like huge Twitter and all that. And he basically gives out life advice and all that. But you guys, you don't even understand how much very kind of like rich wisdom thing is in this book, and also how the analogies, like, guys, I'm all the analogies, like the analogies, the metaphors that Yuval uses in his book is also so good as the analogies that are in this book. He talks about what is leverage, what is actually like the money. One of the most interesting idea for me was when he talked about money. Okay, I can't explain it to you guys, it's so complicated. But basically, he goes on to talk about different cool ideas about how do you create assets in our day and age. He talks about how do you make money. He basically talks about how to get rich, but like not in a stupid way, which is like invest, bro. Guys, I've read I think I've read all the personal finance books that are out there, starting from Rich Dad Poor Dad, ending on the fucking weirdest books ever. But this one is probably one of the best books I've read so far on actual practical advice on money. But he doesn't talk there about money only. He also talks about happiness overall. He gives you literally a formula of happiness. He's like, here's what you just do. Work out, have social interactions and make money. And it sounds like duh, but the way he explains it and the way he just simplifies everything in life is it's just so nourishing. You read that book and you're like, okay, maybe everything is like a little bit complicated, but like not that much as I thought. Because sometimes you can get so lost in life and you feel like, oh my gosh, I literally don't know what I'm doing. I literally didn't know what should I do, where should I go. Like, I have so many options. And especially, like you're in your 20s, middle aged, when you're in your 20s crazy and you're like, oh my gosh, should I do? Should I start a business? Should I make YouTube videos? Should I like move out and travel forever? Should I maybe just like kill myself? Like you don't even know what you should do, right? And you become so lost and confused. And I feel like this book also is one of the books that really gives you like, calm down, you can do it, there are ways, like just maybe try this, maybe try that. Like, it's not that bad. It's really not. Like, oh my God, this book really feels like a big hug from a wise old man. Like, just meditate. He is big on meditation, by the way. But yeah, I don't know, guys. For me, that book was good. And I think that's it. Guys, I think that's actually it. I don't have anything else to give you today. I have read many books, but not so many books that have completely changed me. And now you can read these too and be happy. Hopefully. Maybe that's going to work. Maybe not. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video or listening, streaming, whatever. And I hope you liked it. If yes, please give it a big thumbs up. Like, at this point, how long should I wait? Because I've been working my ass off. And like, where are the rewards? Okay, I'm kidding. I'm not. Okay, thank you so